Everyone can see my okay. Okay, Ravinder, please raise your hand so I can allow you to talk. Ravinder, what you want to ask me? Yes, Ravinder. Shubham,
Yes, sir.
you raise hand. You want to ask me something?
No, sir, by mistake, sir. Sir,
So today we are going to talk about first last class we talked about RBC and next class was the WBC and now we are going to talk about platelet. But platelet individually is a very small topic and we cannot talk platelet separately. So we'll talk platelet along with the coagulation system. So blood coagulation system together we'll call as a hemostasis or hemostatic system. Okay. So first part will come in hemostatic system is platelets. So what mean by platelet? Platelet are actually not a cell, though we call it a smallest blood cell, but it is a fragment of larger cell, and that larger cell is called megakaryocytes. And the fragments of these megakaryocytes will split in the bone marrow, and small these fragments will named as a platelet will release into the blood. So they are one of the smallest corpuscles or cells which can be found in the blood, and their diameter will ranges from 2 to 4 micron uh, of the small blood, and they're usually disc shaped. Okay, so they're very oval and disc shaped, and they're colorless. On Lichtenstein, they usually get a faintish bluish color because of the cytoplasm, and it doesn't contain nucleus. So there is no nucleus, so dark blue color will not be seen. You will see on Lichtenstein peripheral smell, it is more of like groups of the small cells. So the clumped of venous will be there, like everywhere you will see something. This differently you will see RBCs like here. Okay, and in the between RBC group of RBCs, you will see the small clumping leg of the platelet in the Leishman's stain. If you see more detailed structure of the platelet, this water diagram you are seeing, it is not through the microscope, but it is on much magnified diagram, where you will see the cell membrane, which has an opening also and communicate with the extracellular fluid through the canaliculi. And apart from this, it also contains the granules. So these granules are called dense granules. Apart from this, there are mitochondria also present in the platelets. So mitochondria provide energy, while these green granules produce has a chemicals which are essential for the coagulation system and activation of the platelet. Then apart from this different thing, it also contains microtubules. These are made up of tubulins, and they usually give the shape of the platelet and also uh, important for their normal shape in the circulation. And once the platelet get activate, because of this tubulin only, it will changes the shape of the platelet. Okay, if you want to take screenshots, don't take. Already started sharing the slides, so don't waste your energy and time in taking the screenshots. Okay. Okay, sorry, the slides दो चल गए थे. So first we'll talk about cell membrane. It is a um, bilaminar structure which is made up of lipid, phospholipids, cholesterol, and glycolipids. Apart from this, it also contain the carbohydrate and proteins. The glycoproteins are present on the surface. They prevent the adherence of the platelets. The adherence is very important property of the platelet. Once the platelet get active, first thing they what do, they will start adherence, and they will initiate the coagulation mechanism. And because of this glycoprotein, the adherence of the platelets will be prevented, so that the platelet will remain non-sticky in the normal blood. Once the blood get injured, this adherence property of the platelet will start increasing, and it will start sticking the platelet on the injured blood vessels, and it try to uh, block or close that injured blood vessel, so that blood will not loss from the body. Then the phospholipid also present in the membrane, and these are usually contain platelet factor 3, which is important for the initiation of the coagulation process. Then the canacular system are also present in the platelet, which communicate the platelet with the exterior through this canacular system. And there are a lot of receptors also present on the platelets, which is has a affinity for the collagens and fibrinogens. Fibrinogens will attach on these receptors and try to trap the platelet into the fibrin meshwork, so that the clot will be formed. Then there are various precursors like a thromboxanate to prostaglandin and leukotrienes are all present in the platelets. They are present in the platelet membrane, and they are important for the coagulation and activation of the platelet. Then come to the microtubules. These are usually made of the protein tubulins, and they usually gives the shape of the platelet, that whatever discord shape of the platelet that is given by these microtubules, and they are also responsible for the movement of the platelets. Then come to cytoplasm. The cytoplasm doesn't, as nucleus is absent, but it does contain endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi apparatus, and they're responsible for the synthesis of the various enzymes, and also it stores a large amount of the calcium, and this calcium are important for the activation of the platelet. Then it also contains mitochondria, which capable of producing ATPs. Then there are various contractile proteins apart from the muscles. The actin myosin also present in the platelets. So this is one of the cell which contain contractile protein, that is actin myosin, which also present in the muscle. Apart from this actin myosin, the another protein is thrombasthenin. And because of this contractile protein, platelet can contract and move, and it is responsible for the clot retraction. जब हम coagulation में आएंगे तो all these processes I will describe in detail. Discoid, okay, oid means उसके जैसा. Okay, discoid means disc के जैसा. Okay, myeloid माइलो के जैसा, lymphoid lymphocytes के जैसा. Similarly, discoid means it look like a disc. Okay. Then apart from this, other proteins also present in the platelet. These are like fibrin stabilizing factors, platelet derived factor, 1 millibrand factors. These are important coagulation factors, which is important for the blood coagulation. And then granules which contain in the platelet are they usually contain various clotting factors and platelet derived growth factors. In the various enzymes also present like which is important for the synthesis of the various leukotrienes or cytokines like prostaglandin and thromboxane 2. All those enzymes also present in the platelet, which is responsible. Now come to the properties of the platelets. This is very important part of the chapter. So how the platelet behaves. So first and most important property of the platelet is adhesiousness. By default, platelet has a attraction towards each other. So whenever the platelet get activated, they immediately start adhering to each other, and the surface will start sticky, and they start attaching to the each other. That property is called adhesiousness. And how this adhesiousness can be triggered? So it can be triggered whenever the platelet exposed to any rough surface or wet surface or glass. Whenever they attach to those or come in contact with this type of the surface, it will initiate the adhesiousness of the platelet and start streaking. And this surface can be come in contact. If you see the endothelium has a smooth surface. So whenever they are exposed to the endothelial cells, platelet did not become adhesive. But moment there is any injury occur to the endothelium, हाँ शुभम बोलो. शुभम. Once the it increases the adhesiousness of the place, this is also called like it activates the platelets, and platelets start releasing the factors like a thromboxane, thrombonine, ADPs, calcium, and we only refined. This will increase, and these factors again increases the adhesiousness of the platelet. Okay. Second property is once the adhesiousness increases, it the platelet will start aggregating or start piling up on each other. So the platelet will start getting Ria, you want to ask me something? Ria, the platelet will start attracting towards each other and start coming together, aggregate, and form a platelet plug-like structure. Then come to the agglutination. This is also another important property. And platelet will piles on each other and stick strongly to each other. And this mechanism is called agglutination of the platelet. Then come to the functions of platelet. Platelet plays very important role in homeostasis. Sorry, hemostasis. It is one of the primary factors whenever the injury occur to the blood vessels. So it's one of the initial factors which try to stop the bleeding from the injured blood vessels. Then it also initiate the coagulation mechanism and help blood to form the clot by releasing the various clotting factors. Then platelet also plays important role in clot retraction. Once the clot forms, a platelet trapped and it is attached with the fibrinogen. Because of its contractile nature, platelet start contracting itself and try to reduce the volume of the clot. And because of that, serum will move out of the clot and clot will become more fixed and more firm. Apart from this, platelet also helps in repairing of the blood vessels by releasing the various growth factors, including platelet-derived growth factors. Then platelet also has a agglutination property and can cause a phagocytosis, so it also plays important role in defense mechanism. And platelet also stores a chemical called 5-HT, that is serotonin. Then come to the normal counts. Normal count varies from 1.5 lakhs to 4.5 lakhs. Whenever there is increase in count, we call it thrombocytosis. And whenever count goes more than 4.5 lakh, we consider it as a thrombocytosis. And causes, there are no physiological causes, there are always pathological causes. So platelet count can be increased immediately after splenectomy. Spleen is the site where usually platelet is destroyed. So whenever we whenever platelet is spleen is removed, so rate of destruction of the platelet will decrease, and that ultimately leads to increase in platelet count. Apart from this, immediately after hemorrhage or severe injury or parturition, platelet will be increased. Then malignant diseases like myeloproliferative disorders like myeloid leukemia, polycythemia, and myelofibrosis, in this condition also platelet increase. Then another condition where decrease in the platelet count. So platelet are destroyed, or major site of the destruction of the platelet is a spleen. So if we remove the spleen from the body, so it will reduce the destruction of the platelet in the body. And if there is reduction in the destruction, then it will increase count in the platelet. Uh, Myeloproliferative disorder are the diseases where the bone marrow proliferation, uncontrolled proliferation will occur. Those conditions are called, example, leukemias. So any malignant blood cancer, layman term, we can call it as a blood cancer. Okay. Then come to the condition where platelet count decrease, and that condition is called thrombocytopenia. So whenever the platelet count goes below 1.5, we call it as a thrombocytopenia. And cause of thrombocytopenia, first is idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura. So here exactly cause we doesn't know, but thrombocyte count keep on decreasing. That condition is called idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura. Purpura is a term which given for a bluish discoloration of the skin. So what happens when there is decreased platelet count? So it reduces the immediate repair of the blood vessels. So whenever the normal blood vessel injury occurs, it is immediately plugged by the platelet. Now platelets since count decrease, the plugging is not happening, and so the bleeding will keep on occurring, and there will small blood will which come out of the blood vessels will start accumulating in subcutaneous tissue, and that gives bluish purple color of the spots. Those are called purpura. So whenever the platelet count decrease, that will causes thrombocytopenic. That condition is called thrombocytopenic purpura. Ria, I removed you from the class because you raised hand and didn't ask me any question. So if you raise hand and you're not asking me questions, then unnecessary you are troubling me. Okay. बोलो मोहम्मद शबान.
हेलो सर, वो
हाँ बोलो.
थ्रोम्बोसाइटोपिनिया में जो लास्ट वाले पॉइंट दो तीन वो समझा दीजिए जरा।
कौन से? कौन से वाले? कौन से वाले बताओ ना. So first is idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura. Okay, that is called purpura. Then second, हाँ स्मिता बोलो.
Sir, I didn't understand the meaning of idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura. Can you please explain?
Yeah, yeah. Idiopathic means cause we doesn't know. Pathy is a disease. Okay, so cause we doesn't know, that condition we call it as a idiopathic condition. Thrombocytopenia means decrease in platelet count, and purpura is the name of the condition, as I already explained. So whenever there is a decreased platelet count, the main function of the platelet is uh, one of the important function of the platelet is repairing of the blood vessels. So जब भी blood vessel injure हो जाती है, तो immediately platelet goes to the site and try to plug and repair the blood vessels immediately. So it will doesn't allow the blood vessel to bleed, and this bleeding will be continuously occurring in our body in day-to-day routine life. Now, moment if you are sitting, so whatever surface which touch to your seat, those skin capillaries will keep on rupturing. So if you are putting your hand on the table, so whatever part of the your hand is touching on the table, hard surface, those capillaries will be ruptured, and that immediately get repaired also. But when the platelet count decrease, so that repairing process will become either delay, very slow, or not at all. So the capillary will be ruptured and it will not immediately get repaired. So their blood will start losing from those capillaries and will start accumulating in subcutaneous tissue. Once the blood accumulates in the subcutaneous tissues, this accumulated blood will become deoxygenated. It will show bluish purple color, and that bluish purple color small spots will be appear on the skin, so that can be easily visible by our naked eyes, and that condition is called purpura. So idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura is a condition where purpura is occurring because of decrease in platelet count, but cause we doesn't know. Later on investigation we found that it is sometimes autoimmune disorder, which their antibodies has been formed against the platelet, and that start damaging the platelet or increase the destruction of the platelet in the spleen, and that leads to decreased count in the platelet. There are other causes also. So when we will see applied aspect, there we discuss about this purpura and all those things in detail. The second condition where the platelet count decrease are the bone marrow depression, where the bone marrow proliferation is not occurring. Either it is because of treatment of the cytotoxic drug, or because of irradiation of the body, or aplastic conditions of the or hypoplastic condition of the bone marrow. Then it is decrease in platelet count. Also, you can see secondary to the malignant diseases like leukemias, where the bone marrow will completely replaced by the leukemite still, and only one strain of the WBC will start growing, so that will compromise the growth of the platelet also and RBC also. Then it also platelet count also decrease in various viral infections like chickenpox, typhoid, or dengue fever. In that condition, also platelet count decrease. It also decreases in hypersplenism. When the spleen size increases, it starts sequestering the platelet there, and it will decrease the platelet from the blood. Then toxemia of the pregnancy, then septicemia or uremia, that will also damage the platelet and increase platelet destruction and leads to decrease in platelet count. Then how platelet forms? So it started from the pluripotent cell. When pluripotent cell exposed to the megakaryocyte colony forming unit, it differentiated into megakaryoblast, and then from megakaryoblast, which is one of the large cell up to 20 to 30 micrometer, and with large nucleus, it will start developing, and then there will increase proliferation in the cell inside, and it is called endoreduplication, which occur, and it forms a megakaryocytes. From megakaryoblast, it forms the megakaryocytes, where the nuclear chromatin will start multiplying repeatedly, and multiple pairs of the chromatins will be developed inside the cell. And large cell, which contain almost 32 times more DNA as compared to normal cells. And that is, cell is not multiplying, only nucleus is keep on multiplying inside the cell, and this also started forming the granules into the cells. And these are all thrombocytes also form into the bone marrow. All blood cells where it formed like a in intrauterine life, it is in the yolk sac, then liver, then it also started forming in the bone marrow. Then once the granular cells will be formed, and then it converted into megakaryocytes. In megakaryocytes, it become much larger cell, 30 to 90 nanometers, and which contain a nucleus which has a multiple lobed, 4 to 16 lobe nucleus will be there, which has a coarse clumped chromatin, and abundant cytoplasm, which has a red purple granules with irregular margins. Irregular margins because of formation of multiple pseudopores. So if you see this, the multiple pseudopores will form, and these multiple pseudopores, the pseudopores will trapped into the tubercules of the bone marrow. बोन मैरो में भी जो हनीकॉम्ब की तरह small tubercules होती है, and in that tubercules these pseudopores will form. It will start separating from the megakaryocytes, and it will form into platelets, and these platelets will release into the blood. Okay, from each megakaryocyte almost 4,000 platelets will be formed, and these platelets once released into the blood will stay into the blood. So formation of the platelet from stem cell to the platelets, it almost take 10 days. And this process of the formation of platelet is also called thrombopoiesis, and it is regulated by the chemical called thrombopoietin, and also colony stimulating factors, megakaryocyte colony stimulating factors. Then if you see the lifespan of the platelet, it, on an average 10 days will remain into the blood, varying from 8 to 12 days, and it is majorly destroyed in spleen. So spleen is the site where the platelet get destroyed. So whenever there is increased splenic size, that condition is called splenomegaly, then it will causes a increase in platelet destruction, and that will lead to reduction in the platelet count. Similarly, if spleen is removed, that condition is called splenectomy, removal of the spleen from the body, and in that condition the destruction of the platelet will decrease, and that will lead to increase in platelet count. Then come to the proper hemostasis mechanism. So what is meant by hemostasis? The spontaneous prevention of the bleeding from the injured blood vessel is called hemostasis. Okay, hem means blood, stasis means stoppage. So blood stoppage hota hai, that condition is called hemostasis, and these involve 3 processes in hemostasis. One is vasoconstriction, second is temporary plug formation, and last is a definitive plug formation. So first we'll talk about vasoconstriction. So whenever there is injury occur to the blood vessels, that direct injury causes severe smooth muscle contraction. Because of direct injury will initiate the smooth muscle, and it will break the smooth muscle, and it increases the contraction of the calcium within the smooth muscle, that will causes severe smooth muscle contraction. Heme means blood. Heme means blood. Blood का stoppage means hemostasis. Okay. Another thing, factor which is responsible for the vasoconstriction is stretching of the blood vessels, smooth muscles. So when an injury occurs, it break the cell membrane of the smooth muscle also, stretching of the smooth muscle, and also it causes a release of the various factors from the damaged endothelial cells. That is like a histamine and other vasoconstrictor, and this will also increase the megakaryocytes have nucleus. Platelets are just fragments of the megakaryocyte which doesn't contain nucleus. Mm. Then all these factors are responsible to cause the severe vasoconstriction, and that vasoconstriction will be strong enough to stop bleeding. If injury is very small, then bleeding will stop without any other further mechanism. With the vasoconstriction only, the bleeding will be stopped. There are various factors responsible for the vasoconstriction apart from the type of the injury also. When injury is very sharp cut, then there is a vasoconstriction not that much, like surgically हम scalpel से cut करते हैं. It does cause vasoconstriction, but not natural. But it injury is crushed injury, like injury occur because of accident, all this thing. Then vasoconstriction much severe. Then come to the temporary hemostatic plug formation or temporary clot formation. And these occur by the platelet plug formation. This is also called a platelet plug formation. So whenever there is an injury occur to the blood vessels, it exposes the collagen fibers and endothelial cells of the blood vessels. So endothelial cells of the blood vessels removed, and the collagen fibers of the blood vessels will be exposed and come in contact with the blood. And in the blood, platelets also present. So platelet will come in contact with the collagen factors, and that will activates the platelet. And platelet will now, once platelet become active, it will start swelling and forms the irregular. It starts protruding various pseudopores uh, from the platelet, and the pseudopores will start to attach to the surface of the blood vessels and try to increase the stickiness of the surface. And it also start releasing the various factors which increases the stickiness of the platelet, and platelet will start adhering to the collagen of the damaged vessels, and it will try to plug or seal the damaged blood vessels. Now, once this platelet adhesion will occur, it will increases the granulation activation of the platelet. So this process is called activation. And once this platelet get activated, they will release the other chemicals like ADP, thromboxane A2, and which will attract the nearby platelets. So it attracts the nearby platelet and start activating the nearby platelet. And because as the previous platelet has the stickiness, or this platelet का भी stickiness बढ़ेगा, more and more platelet will come and start. 5-HT is a short form of the serotonin. It is a neurotransmitter which is a strong vasoconstrictor also. Hemotryptophan. It increases stickiness and start more and more platelet will start adhering to the already activated platelet. Okay, and this activation of stickiness and more platelet coming and adhering to the original platelet, this mechanism is called platelet aggregation. And this platelet aggregation also increased by the various factors like platelet activating factors or cytokines released from the neutrophil and monocytes also. They will also start attracting more platelet and attract, and it forms almost seal the complete damaged collagen. So now collagen is not exposed to the blood. Yes, Sukaswini. And these all will aggregate together, and that will forms a temporary plug, which ultimately close the damaged blood vessels and collagen fiber, and then will stop bleeding. Okay, once the platelet plug formation occur, uh, if it continues to occur, it can keep on activating the almost all platelet, and it can consume all platelet present in the body, but it will not be there. It will be after some time it will be prevented. And how it can be inhibited, the platelet plug formation, by release of the prostacyclin, which is also released from the membrane of the platelet. Also inhibition of the thromboxane formation by, okay, and also which both thing will and causes a retraction of the platelet, that will localize the platelet, keep the platelet at the localized level. So all this will be limit the platelet plug formation at the site of the injury. Then come to the definitive plug formation. Once the temporary plug formation will be there, it will stop bleeding, but it is a very fragile. It can be easily removed by simple pressure, or simple scratching will also can be removed, and it will not seal completely, it not firmly attached to the injured blood vessels. So after this initial stage of the temporary platelet formation will be there. Now second stage, last stage of the homeostasis will occur, and that will causes a definitive platelet plug, definitive clot formation. And the definitive clot formation occurs by the initiation of the coagulation. So by coagulation initiation, it is causes the activation of the fibrinogen into fibrin monomer, and that fibrin monomer will become fibrin polymer, and the meshwork of the fibrin polymer will occur, and in that all the blood vessels will be trapped, and these are tightly attached to the injured blood vessels, and that's why it is also called as the definitive platelet plug formation. It completely seal the damage, and there will no bleeding will occur from the blood vessels. So this mechanism, blood coagulation, but definitive plug formation is also called as blood coagulation, and it is a process where the cascades of the reactions occur. From one activation of the factors will activate, multiple factors will activate, and ultimately it will leads to clot formation. And this whole process will involve various chemical or proteins, and those proteins are called clotting factors. So you need to remember these clotting factors. So these clotting factors are named by Roman numbers as they discovered or they appear in the coagulation cascade. So first factor is the fibrinogen. This is the final product of the clot formation. Fibrinogen will convert into fibrin, and that fibrin will form fibrin polymer, and this is the last step of the clot formation, conversion of the fibrinogen. Before the conversion of fibrinogen, next factor is factor 2, that is called prothrombin. Prothrombin is the chemical or enzyme which is involved in conversion of the fibrinogen into fibrin monomer. And the prothrombin was activated, it will convert to thrombin, and this is how it will initiate. So for doing these two factors, fibrinogen and prothrombin, activating these two factors, all other factors are required, and those are like factor 3 also called thromboplastin, factor 4 is calcium, factor 5 is labile factor, factor 6 previously they thought it is like a stable factor, pre-labile factor or pro-accelerant, but it is now not existed. So factor 6 is not present because it's very unstable factor. And factor 7 is called stable factor or pro-converting factor. Factor 8 anti-hemophilic factor. Factor 9 Christmas factor. 10 Stewart power factor. 11 is the plasma thromboplastin. 12 is Hodgman factor. 13 is fibrin stabilizing factor. And these are the other factors which is take part in a platelet activation or coagulation. This is like high molecular weight kinogen, pre-kallikrein, kallikrein, and platelet phospholipids. So these factors are involved in a coagulation mechanism, and this coagulation mechanism, formation of the clot is called a coagulation mechanism, and it occurs in three conditions where whenever there is a damage to the blood vessels, then clot formation will occur. Whenever this damage occur to the blood, So when a blood flow is there and an injury occur to the blood, then also clot formation, and when the damage occur to the endothelium of the blood vessel. So when all these one of these three factors will occur, it will initiate the clot formation. And this clot formation involves three steps. One is formation of prothrombin activator, second is conversion of the prothrombin into thrombin, and third is the conversion of the fibrinogen into fibrin. Out of these two steps, conversion of prothrombin into thrombin and conversion of fibrinogen into fibrin is common, while formation of the prothrombin activity is one complex situation, and they depend upon the stimulus. This is divided into intrinsic factor and intrinsic pathway and extrinsic pathway. It doesn't exist. Factor 6 is not exist. Yes. Darsh.
Sir, your voice is not coming when I raise my hand, but now it's clear.
So formation of the prothrombin activator occur in two different ways, and these are called extrinsic pathway and intrinsic pathway. Suppose we'll talk about extrinsic pathway. Here the source of the stimulus is outside the blood. That's why name is given extrinsic pathway. So whenever there's injury occur to the tissue or blood vessels, then those damaged tissue and blood vessels will release the factors. All these factors which release together are called tissue thromboplastin. That is factor 3. Okay, the tissue thromboplastin released into the blood. This tissue thromboplastin will act on factor 10 directly with the help of factor 7 and calcium. Okay, this tissue thromboplastin act directly on the factor 10 with the help of factor 7 and calcium, and that will activate the factor 10 into activated factor 10. Okay, once the activated factor 10 along with the tissue thromboplastin, calcium, phospholipid, and activated factor 5 will together form prothrombin activator. And this is how it is one of the shortest pathway, extrinsic pathway, very simple. All these factors will come together will form prothrombin activator and they convert prothrombin into thrombin. समझ में आ रहा है एक्सटेंसिव पाथवे? 3 स्टेप है, टिश्यू थ्रोम्बोप्लास्टिन रिलीज हो जाता है, ब्लड में जाता है, that will in the presence of the factor 7 and calcium, it activate factor 10 into activated factor 10. This activated factor 10 along with act on a factor 5 and convert it into activated factor 5. So activated factor 10 along with the activated factor 5 in the presence of the calcium and phospholipid will together form prothrombin activator. Okay, and this will activate prothrombin into thrombin. Then come to the intrinsic pathway. It is a little bit more complex pathway and it occurs when this trauma occurs to the blood or blood vessels exposed to the collagen of the vessel wall. When there is exposed to collagen of the vessel wall or trauma occur to the vessel, and that will activate a factor 12. So factor 12 will activate it into active factor 12. Once this active factor 12 will occur, it will act on a factor 11, and that will, in the presence of calcium, will convert into active factor 11. This active factor 11 will activate on a factor 9. So 11 says it activates factor 9 and converted into activated factor 9. The activated factor 9 will act on a factor 8 and it will convert into activated factor 8. This is activated factor 8 act on a factor 10 and convert it into active factor 10. Okay, this will form active factor 10. So one is 10 factor will activated. Along with that, platelet is activated, which will activate with the help of factor 10, convert into factor 5. So factor 5 will be converted into active factor 5. So 10 factor 5 along with the phospholipid and calcium will together form prothrombin activator, and that will convert the prothrombin into thrombin. Now, if you see this both intrinsic and extrinsic pathway, there is one factor which we will see at various places, and that factor is calcium. So, if you see here, in extrinsic pathways also there is a calcium. In intrinsic pathway also there are various stages where calcium is utilized, and if you see in prothrombin conversion also calcium is required, and for fibrin polymer formation also calcium is required. Okay, and this is how it will activate the prothrombin activator. Okay, both there's some class later. We'll take a break of 5 minutes. Okay, and then we'll continue. Yes, Namita? So bacterial flora refer to the bacteria present in our GI system. Immediately after birth, GI system is sterile, there is no bacteria. But as we start getting food, milk, so bacteria start entering in our body, and it will form layer of the bacteria in the GI system. Layer of the bacteria in the GI system. That layer is non-pathogenic. That will not create any disease in our body. So it is normal commensal. It's like a symbiosis. We are living together with that bacteria. So as that bacteria rented our gut for their stay, they pay a rent by producing a various useful factors which can be useful for our body. And one of the factors is vitamin K. Okay. So that vitamin K, the factors which is required vitamin K for the synthesis are called vitamin K dependent factor. And the factor of prothrombin, factor 7, factor 9, factor 10. Okay, so all these 4 factors are called vitamin K dependent factor. And whenever there's a vitamin K is deficient, then it will lead to decreased number of these factors, and that can lead to increased bleeding time and increased clotting time and prothrombin time. Okay, and that leads to ultimately coagulation process will be delayed in our body. Then come to the liver. Almost maximum clotting factors are synthesized by the livers, like vitamin factor 5, 7, 9, 10, prothrombin and fibrinogens are synthesized in the liver, and so liver also removes the various activated coagulants from the blood, and it also synthesizes the anticoagulants like heparin, antithrombin 3, and protein C. So liver plays a very important role in balancing between coagulation system and anticoagulation system. So if it causes a failure of the liver, then it leads to decreased coagulability of the blood, and that is called hypocoagulated blood or bleeding disorder. And it can lead to uncontrolled bleeding from the various blood vessels in a liver disease, specifically liver cirrhosis. Then come to the blood role of the blood vessels. Blood vessels are important for the anticoagulation mechanism. Because of presence of smooth endothelium of the blood vessels, it prevents the platelet adhesion, aggregation, and activation. Apart from this, it also produces the prostaglandin 2 that prevent the platelet aggregation, and also they release the plasminogen activator, which convert plasminogen into plasmin, which is a fibrinolytic agent. So if clot at attal form, that clot will also removed by this blood vessel endothelium. Apart from this, It also plays very important role in coagulation mechanism by releasing the chemical called von Willebrand factor. So von Willebrand factor is also released by the platelet and also by the endothelium, and that von Willebrand factor is essential for the platelet aggregation. And also it releases the tissue factor whenever there is occur damage to the tissue. Then come to the some endothelial tissues which present in the blood. So whenever the endothelium get damaged and it exposes the subendothelial tissue, that any collagen is present in the subendothelial tissue are essential for the platelet adhesion and aggregation, and can also initiate the intrinsic coagulation pathway. Apart from this, presence of the smooth muscles in the vessels, which is start initial step of the hemostasis, that is vasoconstriction occur because of activation of the smooth muscle or injury occurring to the smooth muscle of the blood vessels. Then come to the anti-hemostatic mechanism, that is prevention of the factors which prevent the coagulation, factors which prevent the platelet aggregation, and also which causes the fibrinolysis. So many times it is one of the favorite question of the examiner to ask is if there is a lot of coagulation factors which present in our body, platelet is also present in our body, then why blood doesn't clot in the body? It is because of presence of other factors which prevent the coagulation. These are called anticoagulation factors. So there are various heparin, antithrombin 3, protein C, protein S. So all these will be there which prevent the blood coagulation. Apart from this, flowing blood, even if suppose some platelet get activated or clotting factor will get activated, because blood is flowing, that activated clotting factors will be spread to different part of the body, get diluted. It will not be high concentrated enough to initiate the coagulation mechanism. So because flowing blood is also very important. If blood is flowing, that will also reduce the hypercoagulability of the blood. So if blood is stagnant, it increases the coagulation chances. If blood is flowing, it will reduce the coagulation of the chances of the coagulation. So factors which prevent the aggregation. First factor is prostacyclin. This is a factor which synthesized by the endothelium and also called the endogenous factors, and it prevents the platelet aggregation by preventing the thromboxane A2 formation. Then this thromboxane A2 formation is also prevented by the one factor, that chemical, that is called aspirin. Aspirin is prevent the thromboxane A2. It is a thromboxane A2 formation, and because of this, it prevent the platelet aggregation, and that's why aspirin is one of the useful drug in myocardial infarction or prevention of the myocardial infarction. So we'll give a small dose of aspirin to the patient who has a tendency to myocardial infarction, or also called as having ischemic heart disease. Then presence of the circulatory anticoagulants in the blood. These are first is heparin. It is one of the most powerful anticoagulant. Previously, it has been found that it is synthesized by the liver. That's why name is given heparin. HEPA stand for liver, but it is also synthesized by the various cells like basophils and mast cell also. It is a high molecular weight. It is having 15,000 to 18,000 weight, and it polysaccharide, which is contains sulfate group. It prevents the coagulation by three different steps. First is it prevents the activation of the prothrombin. Second thing, it inhibits the conversion of the fibrinogen into fibrin, and it also increase the activation of the antithrombin 3. So antithrombin 3, also called as heparin cofactor. Antithrombin 3 inhibit the coagulation by inhibiting the activation of factor 9, 10, 11, and 12. So heparin and antithrombin 3 together will act and prevent the more coagulation. It is one of the very useful anticoagulant, and this anticoagulant we can use within the body also and outside the body also. So it is one of the anticoagulant which can be used in vitro and in vivo also. Then another anticoagulant is protein C, which is synthesized by the liver, and the protein C along with the thrombomodulin together will form the anticoagulator mechanism, and it will inactivate the active factor 5 and factor 8, and it also inactivate the plasminogen activator inhibitor. So that inactivate plasminogen activator inhibitor, and that will activate the tissue plasminogen activator, which convert plasminogen into plasmin, and that can causes fibrinolysis. So protein C not only prevent the coagulation, but also water blood clot has been formation, that will also remove from the body. Then come to the fibrinolytic mechanism. This is a mechanism which once the clot is formed, the clot is a little bit large than required, and it has a very rough surface. So by fibrinolytic mechanism, whatever extra clot has been formed will be removed, and will give smooth surface of the clot, so that it will not cause any roughage, and it will not activate further, and it will not stimulate further coagulation. So one is the plasmin. So plasmin is one of the strong protease enzyme, and which lies the fibrin and fibrinogen into a small fragment. That fragments are called activator. It's TPA, tissue plasmin activator. I didn't understand like this side. Okay, I got it. Once this tissue plasminogen activator is formed, this convert plasminogen into plasmin. Okay, and once the plasmin so function of this fibrinolytic system or plasmin is whenever the clots form in the blood, these clots will be keep on cleaned or removed from the blood by this fibrinolytic system. Second thing, it promotes the healing process. By removing the clot, it allows the way to form the fibroblast cells. So healing process of the blood vessels and healing process of the tissue is promoted by this fibrinolytic system. Then it also liquefies the menstrual blood, so that blood can easily pass through the vagina because of the fibrinolytic system. What happens during menstruation? Bleeding occur, and the blood will get clotted into the uterus itself. After that, this plasmin will activate it and will liquefies, and then blood will come out of the vagina. Apart from this, plasmin is also important for the liquefaction of the epididymis, liquefaction of the sperm in epididymis, and also in inflammation. Also, plasmin plays very important role, where with the help of the bradykinin and kallikrein, it contribute in a blood vascular function, that is increasing capillary permeability, increasing blood supply, and also stimulate the pain receptor also. So inflammatory action also plasmin plays very important role. As the same question, why blood doesn't clot in circulation? So first, because of circulation. If blood is keep on flowing, it will contribute in the fluidity of the blood. Then presence of the smooth surface of the endothelium. So because of smoothness of the endothelium, it inhibits the platelet aggregation. Then presence of the glycocalyx or mucopolysaccharide, which present on the endothelium, that has a negatively charge and repel the clotting factors also and platelet also. And then intact endothelium will also act as a barrier between the collagen fibers and blood. So it prevents the contact of the platelet with the collagen fiber because of presence of endothelium. Then apart from this, because of presence of the anticoagulants in the blood, that is heparin, antithrombin 3, protein C, alpha microglobulin, then presence of the fibrinolytic system, which will keep on removing the water clot will be formed and all those things. And because of this, it will not allow the clotting mechanism will continue in the blood. So even if intravascular coagulation occur, that by immediately removing that clot, it will prevent the further coagulation. And also liver plays very role by whenever the clot get activated. So active factors will also removed by the liver, and that will prevent the coagulation of the blood intravascularly. Then come to the thrombosis. So as I said, why blood doesn't clot? So whenever this mechanism disturb, and blood will clot within the intact blood vessels, or we call it intravascular clotting. That mechanism is called thrombosis, and the clot which form in the intravascularly are called thrombus. Okay, and that's why the platelet which causes a thrombus, that's why platelets also called as a thrombocytes. Now, what are the factors which can initiate the clot formation within the blood? So that is called Virchow's triad. So first is endothelial injury. So as because of increase in blood pressure or increase in lipid tissue, and that will causes a injury to the endothelium, and that will leads to formation of rough endothelium, and where the fat will start depositing. That mechanism is called atherosclerosis. That will start deposited, and that create the plaque formation. So because of hypertension also, there is increased stress on the blood, that will also cause damage. Then if presence of some other arterial diseases like arthritis or anything, that can also cause endothelial injury. Then presence of diabetes, that increase the cholesterol level, and that can also cause the injury to the blood vessel, and cholesterol itself will causes the injury to the endothelium. So all these lead to increase injury to the endothelium, and that can initiate the coagulation mechanism inside the blood. The next mechanism is alteration in the blood flow. So whenever there's increased turbulence of the blood flow, that will lead to activation of the clotting factor, or if there is decreased blood flow, stagnant blood flow, that will also usually causes the activation of the clotting factor. So in this both mechanism works, but both mechanism work in different factor. So increased turbulence is mostly work in arterial side, while decreased blood flow is mostly work in venous side. So in venous side, when there is decreased blood flow, in the venous thrombosis, it is because of stagnant of the blood which causes the coagulation. But in artery, it is because of increased blood flow that causes increased turbulence in the blood that leads to coagulation in the arterial side. Then condition of like hypercoagulated state. So hypercoagulated state is like a increased coagulation factors like fibrinogen, prothrombin, or other factors in the body, or increased platelet count or increased adhesions of the platelet, or decrease anticoagulant mechanism in the body. Like one of the condition I know is genetic disorder like absence of protein C can cause multiple thrombus formation in early age group. So whenever the clotting factor is absent also, that also leads to increased hypercoagulability. अगर थ्रोम्बस फॉर्म हो जाएगा तो क्या होगा? So if thrombus forms, it will stop the blood supply to a particular side and can lead to ischemia or infection of that side. And this is one of the common cause of the infarction in the brain or infection in the heart. So heart attack ana, stroke ana can occur because of clot formation in that side. Second is thromboembolism. So thrombus is clot formation, and embolism is presence of any solid, liquid, or gaseous state in the blood. That mechanism is called embolism. So thrombus is solid part. So is thrombus is formed at the one side, and then it breaks from that side and goes to the other part of the body. This is called thromboembolism. Normally thrombus doesn't form in the heart. It forms in some other side, but that thrombus formed in some other side will break, and that broken thrombus will goes and lodge into the blood vessels of the heart and can cause myocardial infarction. That mechanism is called thromboembolism. Same thing occurs in the stroke. So how we can prevent this thrombus formation? This we usually use in a patient who is prone for the thromboembolism, like a bedridden patient having myocardial infarction, or patient having varicose vein, stagnant vein. In this condition, there is increased chances of thrombi formation. In this condition, we can use the various treatment. Like we can use a drug which can reduce the platelet acidosis, like aspirin, dextran, or dipyrimidol. That will increase the thromboxane, decrease the thromboxane A2 formation, and prevent platelet formation. Then we can use anticoagulants like low dose of the heparin or diacumarol. It is also called as a warfarin. This prevents the warfarin prevent the clotting factor synthesis, and that can also reduce the coagulability of the blood. Then if thrombosis is occurring because of stagnant blood flow in the blood vessels, then what we can do, we can use the intermittent compression and depression therapy. So there's a socks-like structure will be there. We'll put in the calf muscles, and electronically we can compress and release, so that it increases the blood flow in the calf muscles, and that will prevent the blood coagulation in the individual. And this is usually used in condition post-operative thrombosis. So patient is bedridden. In that condition, we use this calf muscle formation. Then anticoagulants. This can be endogenous or exogenous. Endogenous, the anticoagulant which come synthesized within the body, like heparin, antithrombin, or potency. Exogenous, when administered outside the body, it can be used inside the body also and outside the body, so in vivo and in vitro also. So one is heparin, which can be used inside body also and outside also. Then calcium sequester, the one which calcium chelating agent removes the calcium from the blood, and these are like sodium citrate, sodium oxalate, or EDT, ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid. Okay, so these are chemical used for blood collection. Then vitamin K antagonist. This is like a dicomoral or warfarin. These block the action of vitamin K in the liver and prevent the synthesis of the vitamin K dependent clotting factors, and reduce the concentration of the clotting factor into the blood. Then defibrillation substances like a pyrrhulytic substances, which can be used like a snake venom, which can causes lysis of the clot, and cold. So cold will prevent the coagulation mechanism, delay the coagulation mechanism. So cooling of the blood will also prevent the clot formation. So then come to the applied aspects. अब तक का सब समझ में आया? किसी को क्वेश्चन, कुछ डाउट? Then come to the bleeding disorders, where bleeding disorder called the condition where there's an increased tendency of the bleeding in the person. So it can be at the 3 levels, either defect in the platelet, or defect in the coagulation mechanism, or defect in the vessels. So platelet, it can be deficient of the platelet, as thrombocytopenia, or abnormal platelets, like abscess of thrombocytopenia, all those things, abnormal platelet, then it causes bleeding disorder. But in both conditions, the bleeding disorder like a purpura only. Then deficiency of the coagulation factors. It can be like a deficiency of particular clotting factors. It can be genetic, like a hemophilia A, hemophilia B, hemophilia C. Then because of deficiency of vitamin K, it can cause bleeding disorder. Then overdose of or over aggressive treatment with the anticoagulant, then it can cause bleeding disorder. And then DSS, disseminated intravascular coagulation. Then come to the vascular disorder, where the blood vessels capillary endothelium is damaged, and that leads to bleeding disorder. This is called non-thrombocytopenic purpura, and it can be occur because of toxins secreted by the bacteria, endogenous toxin, endotoxin by the bacteria. The septicemia, in that you can see sometimes because of the effect of the drugs, it damages the blood vessels, specifically cytotoxic drugs that can damage the blood vessels and can increase the bleeding disorder. Then because of presence of deficiency of vitamin C, scurvy, that leads to bleeding disorder. Then allergic purpura and other connective tissue disorder. So first we'll talk about the purpura. So there one question comes is like a snake venom. So snake venom, there are two types of the snake venom. One is a neurotoxins and another is a hematotoxins. So hematotoxin snake venom are the snake venom which increases the bleeding tendency of the blood. So they are a strong fibrinolytic mechanism, and they start doing fibrinolysis. So wherever clot formation is going happening, so they will start removing that clot immediately, and it will causes a bleeding tendency in the individual. So that snake venom, if small dose we can use to increase the clot lysis. Okay, that leads to the snake venom that we can use for treatment of, but it is now we have a better mechanism, so we don't use, but that can be causes a fibrinolysis within the blood. That thing. Dicomoral is a substance which block the action of the vitamin K, and vitamin K is essential for the synthesis of the vitamin K dependent clotting factor like fibrinogen, prothrombin, and factor 9 and 10. So those factors synthesis will be decreased, and that leads to deficiency of that clotting factor, and that can delay the coagulation mechanism. So it prevents the coagulation of the there. Second thing, Aditya, you can ask me this after the class. I don't belong to any group, so I don't share it in the group. I share it into Telegram channel. You can go and search for my Telegram channel, that is IHSM Physiology, and you can join there. Okay. Then calf muscle is the muscles of the legs. जो knee joint से नीचे के जो पीछे के legs muscles है, that is a soleus and gastrocnemius. Those muscles are called calf muscle, and these are also called as a peripheral heart. So whenever we walk, this calf muscle will contract and they will push the venous blood back to the heart. So heart जैसे पूरे body में blood supply करता है, वैसे calf muscle will push blood back, pump blood back to the heart, and that's why activity of the calf muscle is very important. Okay, and if that calf muscle is like a patient or post-operative patient is bedridden, so calf muscle is not activating, then it can cause a stagnation of the blood into the calf muscle, and that can lead to hypercoagulable state. Okay, now come to the purpura. Purpura is directly referred to the purple colored petechial hemorrhages in the skin, and it occurs because of delayed repair of the blood vessels, or blood vessels is not repaired immediately on that injury, and because of that the blood will oozes out of the small capillaries and they will accumulate in the subcutaneous tissue. And it can occur either because of decreased platelet count, and that is called thrombocytopenic purpura, or it can be occur because of damaged blood vessels, that is called non-thrombocytopenic purpura. Damaged blood vessels की reason हम previous slide में पढ़ लिए हैं. All these are called non-thrombocytopenic purpura. Okay, so that will not talk much detail, but here the thrombocytopenic purpura. First condition where cause we doesn't know, that is a primary thrombocytopenic purpura where cause we doesn't know. Also sometimes it is we call it as a idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura. Second is where cause is known, where platelet is deficient either because of bone marrow depression or because of leukemia or because of septicemia or because of hypersplenism, then it causes purpura. That is called secondary purpura. Then come to the non-thrombocytopenic purpura, where actual platelet count doesn't decrease, but it affects or damages the platelet, like because of infection, endotoxins will damage other blood vessels and causes a purpura. Then various drugs like steroids or penicillin or sulfur drugs or aspirin that can also causes damage to the blood vessels and can cause a purpura. Then deficiency of vitamin C causes scurvy, and this causes failure of the collagen formation, and that poor blood vessels will be there, and that leads to purpura formation. Then allergic purpura, connective disorder, and also senile purpura. Then come to the bleeding disorders, that is hemophilia. Here, hemophilia, it is because of deficiency of particular clotting factor. So if there is a deficiency of clotting factor 8, we call it as a hemophilia A. It is usually sex-linked recessive disorder. So male usually victim, so male usually has a hemophilia, while female act as a carrier. So it is from mother it goes to the father. Sorry, it goes to the son. No, primary purpura is not congenital or hereditary. Primary, when we say, cause we doesn't know. If we know it is hereditary, then we usually call it as hereditary purpura. Okay, primary when we cause we doesn't know. Okay, so in this whenever there's a decreased concentration of the factor 8 in that individual, when because of absence of the particular gene, it leads to cause bleed severely. Even if small trauma will cause bleed severely, and this is how the patient will show bleeding tendencies, prone for the blood loss, and can lead to hemorrhagic shock. So what are the clinical features it will come? So it is not like that जब मुझे cut होगा तभी उसको bleeding होगी. So injuries can occur keep on daily life. So injury can occur within the muscles, muscle का भी compress हो गया, bleeding disorder हो गया. So उसके अंदर bleeding soft tissue में blood clot form हो जाएगा, muscle में blood form होगा, joints के अंदर bleeding हो जाएगा. GI tract में sometimes GI tract में blood होगा तो it will like a vomiting of the blood, or there will be black color stool or red color stool will be there. Then urinary tract में bleeding होगी तो hematuria can also be there. Epistaxis. So common features are, one of the common features is epistaxis. Epistaxis means bleeding from the nose. Another feature patient complaint is a red color urine. And most important common is bleeding occur in the joint, like a painful joints. Joints are usually painful, specifically knee joint or ankle joint, because the high pressure joint where injuries are more common, and that painful joint will be there. So that called hemarthrosis. So hemarthrosis is one of the common feature, and patient will come with that hemarthrosis. So in this, if you do investigations, bleeding time is normal. Bleeding time means it is occur because of clot formation. Platelet plug formation. Bleeding time will do like we'll ask the patient, will puncture the finger with a needle or lancet, and then we'll put it on a filter paper. So filter paper, and we'll keep on doing till the bleeding stop, and we'll note the time. That is called bleeding time. So bleeding time is normal. Bleeding stoppage of the bleeding is the initial function of the blood vessels and platelet. These are normal in hemophilia patient. But the clotting time increases. And how we do clotting time? Same, will puncture the finger with a lancet, and then we'll take that blood into capillaries, and then we start breaking the capillaries one end slowly. One point will come where the capillary, once you break, you will see the fibrin thread formation. So capillary का एक end उसको लटक जाएगा, अलग नहीं होगा, and that fibrin thread formation is called a clotting time. So clotting time easily delay. So it will have normal bleeding time, normal platelet count, but clotting time usually increase. Also, partial thromboplastin time will also increase in this individual. And how we can treat? We can give him a injection of clotting factor 8, and if bleeding is severe, we can give blood transfusion also. Then second type of the hemophilia is hemophilia B, also called as the Christmas disease. That's why name is given, Christmas factors. This hemophilia A is also called as a disease, royal family disorder. So because it's found in a royal family. This is Christmas disease is autosomal. It is also X-linked disease, and where the deficiency of the Christmas factor will be there, and that leads to similar features of the Queen Victoria. Similar feature like that of the hemophilia A. Hemophilia C, it is occur because of the deficiency of factor 11, and it is usually autosomal recessive transmission of the virus. It affects the both male and female. And here, this is also a clotting factor is prolonged, and clinical features also similar like that of the hemophilia A. Then come to one of the important and common condition which usually come under medical life, that is DIC, disseminated intravascular coagulation. This can occur because of mass tissue injury, or it can occur because of septicemia, or it can occur because of mismatched blood transfusion or post-operative conditions, a burn. All those conditions also DIC can occur. And here it is what happened. It initiates the tissue injury, that initiates the clotting mechanism. It causes a blood coagulation, and it causes blood coagulation at multiple sites. And more blood coagulation will keep on occurring. It will consume all the clotting factors. So the intravascular coagulation again, and will consume all the clotting factors. Small platelet plug will be the plugs will be formed and lodge into multiple organs. So disseminated intravascular coagulation will be there. Apart from this, as they consume all clotting factors and platelet which present in the blood, now there is no more clotting factor present in the blood and no more platelet will be there. And now when whatever injuries occur to the blood vessels, it will start doing bleeding. So one side there is increased coagulation, other side there is a decreased coagulation. So there is a disseminated coagulation will be there. It will affect multiple organs and cause multiple infarct into the organs and can cause organ failures also. At the same time, it increases the bleeding into the body and causes the bleeding disorder within the body. तो इसको कैसे ट्रीट करेंगे हम DIC को? No, it doesn't cause infertility. How we can treat this DIC patient? Here, as a first basic mechanism is increased coagulability of the blood. Here we'll give him a low dose of the heparin, and first we'll prevent the coagulation. Once the coagulation has been prevented, we'll replace him with a more blood, water blood will loss, and then person will slowly recover from the DIC. At the same time, we'll try to remove the cause which initiate the DIC. And both conditions will prevent, and so that we can save the patient. This DIC you can see in cases like a dengue fever and all those things, where initiate the tissue damage and can cause a bleeding disorder in that individual. Okay. Then come to the laboratory test for bleeding disorder. I will not go in detail about this, but these are the few tests like bleeding time, where we see how much time patient will bleed. Then capillary fragility test, which is important for to see the integrity of the blood vessels, which you can see in vitamin C deficiency or any other. Whenever the blood vessels is affected, then this test can come positive. Then platelet count, then coagulation time, prothrombin time, partial thromboplastin time, thromboplastin generation time, thrombin time, and clot retraction test. All these are the tests which gives you idea about the coagulation mechanism, which is working normally or not. That's all about the today's class. Any questions? Any doubt? Any questions? Any doubt? Okay. Have a nice day. Bye.